Hey everyone, so the holidays are just around the corner, and for the next couple weeks we are going to be making some holiday treats. I always have some type of holiday treat that I bring to a house if we're invited over for dinner, or if we're going to a potluck or a party. I always like to kind of come with something, and sometimes just bringing a bottle of wine gets a little bit old, so I like to make some type of baked good or a Christmas treat or something like that. So today we are going to be making a chocolate bark. Now this is paleo, but it is a treat. It's not something you should be eating all the time, but if you do want to indulge, this is certainly one of your better options. There is no gluten, and you are using some really good ingredients that aren't going to completely ruin your gut, ruin all the hard work that you've put in by following a paleo diet. So we have some dark chocolate. You want to use at least a 72% or above. Obviously the darker or the higher percentage, the darker the chocolate, the less the sugar, things like that. But you also don't want to go to like 90%, 95% or 100% unless you really love that taste, because you're not going to get kind of like the chocolate flavor that you're used to. So I would recommend somewhere between 72 and 85. That's the best that I've found. We have some unsweetened coconut flakes. Now these I just toasted is what I do. I take, you can see I have, we're going to use this same pan for our chocolate bark, but I line it with foil and I take the unsweetened coconut flakes and just throw them on the pan. And after I've done some cooking and the oven is still a little bit warm but off, I just throw the pan in there and kind of keep an eye on it. And after 10 or 15 minutes of just sitting in the warm oven, you'll get some really nice toasted coconut flakes that aren't going to burn. And then we also have some chopped up roasted macadamia nuts. Now these don't have salt on them. They're completely unsalted. So we're also going to add just a pinch of fleur de sel to the melted chocolate, along with a little bit of pure vanilla extract to give that chocolate a little bit of extra flavor. So let's get started. Okay, so we put half of our chopped dark chocolate into a microwave safe bowl. Now the other half of the chopped dark chocolate we're going to add at the very end after this has already been melted. This is going to drop the heat a little bit of the chocolate, and then you're going to have a less of a likelihood that you're going to scorch your chocolate and have to start over. So what I do is put the chocolate into a medium powered microwave for about 3 minutes, checking every 30 seconds. So you want to check every 30 seconds just because you want to stir up the chocolate, and you also want to make sure that there's no hot spots. So we'll be back. Okay, so it's been the end of our 3 minutes where we've been stopping the microwave and stirring every 30 seconds. As you can see, the chocolate is definitely becoming almost completely melted. Now, if you just want to wait about 30 to 60 seconds, and you can kind of just keep stirring all of the residual heat that's on the glass itself and that's also within the melted chocolate, is going to continue to melt those last few chunks, and then we are going to add in the rest of the chocolate that we have reserved. Okay, so we're going to add in the rest of our chocolate. And then we can just begin to stir this until the entire chocolate mixture is completely smooth. Now this is going to take a little bit of extra time, probably another 1 to 2 minutes maybe, compared to if you had just microwaved all of the chocolate at once in the microwave. But this is going to give it a much better texture. You're not going to have to worry as much about scorching the chocolate and pulling it out too late after you believe that it's been all the way melted, only to discover that when you try to spread it out onto your pan, it starts getting almost like a chalky type of texture. This is really going to help. So just continue to stir this using the heat from the melted chocolate that we put into the microwave to melt the rest of the chocolate. So now that all of your chocolate is completely melted, you can see it's really almost like thin. It's not thick at all. It's very shiny too. If you actually just look at it, it kind of has a shiny or sheen to it. So now we're going to add a little bit of our vanilla extract and a large pinch of our fleur de sel, and stir that all together. And then we are going to spread the dark chocolate out onto a lined baking sheet. So this is just a regular baking sheet. I've put foil on it. You can also put wax paper or parchment paper down. Foil does work just fine though. So you're going to scrape all of this out of the bowl onto the pan. You want to try and get out as much of that chocolate as you can. And then you can use a knife. I use an offset spatula. This is from Michael's, I believe, and it was just a few dollars if you get one of the 40% off coupons. And you're just going to evenly spread this all the way to the sides of the foil. Now you want to keep this pretty thin. You don't want to make it too thin though, that it's not going to be able to hold your chopped macadamia nuts and your toasted coconut. But you still want it to be fairly thin because you don't want somebody to be biting into a large chunk, almost like as if they were just eating a chocolate bar, because you want this to be a little bit special, something slightly different than what somebody can just go buy in the store. So evenly spread this. And then while the chocolate is still melted, you want to sprinkle your toasted coconut and your chopped up macadamia nuts. Now, make sure your hands are clean for this. I mean, your hands should normally be clean anytime you're doing cooking, and lovely, I have chocolate on my finger. But you just kind of want to keep your palms and your fingers flat and just lightly press down on top of the coconut and the macadamia nuts so that they get right into that melted chocolate. Now, if you kind of curve your hands, you're going to end up digging your fingers straight into the melted chocolate. There are worse things in life than doing that, but you are going to probably create a mess. So You can kind of just lightly press everything in. If there's a couple of extra spots that don't have anything, you can always just go back and kind of specifically place pieces of coconut or of macadamia nuts into those areas that you didn't get before. Now you're going to let this sit on the counter for about 10 to 15 minutes to allow the chocolate to cool a little bit, and then you're going to pop this into the fridge for about 30 minutes to completely harden the chocolate, and then we can break it apart and it's ready to serve. So I just pulled this out of the fridge. It's been in there for about 15 to 20 minutes. So what you can do is just lift the foil straight up and just actually peel it straight back. As you can see, the bark is just going to be a single flat piece. And we can take that and break it into large chunks that you can serve to your guests. So if you just kind of carefully, what I do, I actually push my thumb down a little bit and hold the chocolate underneath my fingers. This way you kind of are left with a nice large piece like this that you can then break into, say, like a piece like this, I usually break into about 3 larger pieces. This way you don't end up giving people like a tiny little like wedge. You want to be able to give people, you know, a good sized piece of your chocolate bark. You don't want to give them, you know, something super tiny like that, like, you know, if you keep pulling off little pieces like that. So you can break off only what you want to serve at that point and you can wrap up the rest, or you can break it all up and then just store whatever you aren't bringing with you or you're not giving to somebody in a sealed container in the fridge, and it'll last for easily a week. I don't know if it'll stay in your house that long, but it'll definitely last in the fridge for a week. Once you've broken apart all of your bark, you can put it on a nice little plate. I also sometimes bring it over to people's houses in those clear kind of like cellophane bags that are just wrapped up with a nice bow. People love it. Nobody is going to look at this and say, oh, that's paleo, I won't eat it, or oh, you eat, you know, it's chocolate, it's macadamia nuts, and it's toasted coconut. Anybody is going to love this. It's the perfect holiday treat, and it's a great thing if you want to bring to someone's house for a potluck or something like that, especially because then you know there's at least one holiday treat that you can indulge in.